Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be looking at a very easy way of identifying adverbial phrases and clauses and stating their functions. Just like the adjectival phrases and clauses, adverbial phrases and clauses is usually one of the questions asked in WAEC, NECO, and NABTEB comprehension passages. An adverbial phrase / adverbial clause is a group of words that acts like an adverb, which modify the primary, principal, or main verb in the main clause of a sentence. Like you already know, a sentence has a main clause and a subordinate clause. The main clause is also referred to as the independent clause, while the subordinate clause is referred to as the dependent clause. We have the following types of adverbials: of time, of manner, adverbial of place, adverbial of condition, adverbial of reason, and adverbial of concession. We have those adverbials. And to be able to identify these adverbials given in the passage from the questions which we are going to be asked in the comprehension passage, you must know that if the expression, underlined expression, begins with when, it's an adverbial of time. If the expression, underlined expression, begins with manner, with how, it's an adverbial of manner. If the underlined expression begins with where, it's an adverbial of place. If the underlined expression begins with because, it's an adverbial place or clause of reason. If it begins with though, although, even though, it's an adverbial of concession. And if the adverbial phrase or clause begins with unless, if, until, only if, then it's an adverbial of condition. Now let's use the question given now as our guide to state the grammatical name of the underlined expression and state the functions. But you must note that it's only the underlined expression that will be asked in the question. The other part of the question will be in the passage. Only the underlined expression will be used. So when you look at the underlined expression, you look at that's the only thing that will be asked in the question. The question reads, as he dragged it to the surface. As he dragged it to the surface. That is the underlined expression. The other part that is not part of the question that's in the passage is we screamed in sudden terror. So the full question, the full sentence reads, as he dragged it to the surface, we screamed in sudden terror. But we are using the underlined expression as he dragged it to the surface for our illustration. The question usually asked comes in this form. State the grammatical name for the underlined expression as used in the passage. State the grammatical name for the underlined expression as used in the passage. Like I told you before, the underlined expression there is as he dragged it to the surface. As he dragged it to the surface. For you to be able to answer the question, you have to go back to that underlined expression and find out the first word of the underlined expression as it is in the above example, the first word. And for our example, the first word that we have there is as. As. And so, since the first word is as, we'll now say it's an adverbial of manner. An adverbial of manner. Because it tells us how that thing happened. How something is done. As. So it's an adverbial of manner. So when you ask that question, for the example we have here, it's an adverbial of manner. It's an adverbial phrase, adverbial clause of manner. adverbial place, a phrase, stroke an adverbial clause of manner. That is the answer for the example we have before us here. That done, the next question, the part 2 of the question, is to state its function. To state its function. When you get that question, what do? You first of all find out the main or primary verb from the main clause. That's why I told you at the beginning that a sentence has a main clause and a subordinate clause. So to be able to find out its function of the adverbial phrase or clause, you must find out the main verb from the main clause in that passage. In the passage, because only the underlined expression is written out. So you go to the passage, and then when you look at where the underlined expression is, and then you look for the sentence that completes the part of the clause that completes it, and then you find out the main clause, the main verb from that main clause of the sentence, and then you pick it out. From the example we have, after going to the passage, the main clause there is, we screamed in sudden terror. We screamed in sudden terror. You can see that particular clause can stand on its own, unlike on the underlined expression, which we have, that is, as it dragged it to the surface, it must look for something else to make it stand. That's why it's called subordinate clause or phrase. So when you now look at the main clause from the example we have here, the main verb is screamed, which is in the main clause. That done, the answer to the question, what state the function, will now be, it modifies the verb screamed in the main clause or the primary clause. It modifies the verb screamed in the main clause. Can be main clause or the primary clause or the principal clause. That is the answer. It modifies the verb screamed in the main clause. That is the answer to the second part of the question. As candidates, you must know that you should be able to differentiate between the parts of speech. It's a major plus for you to be able to answer questions on grammatical names and functions. Be able to differentiate between the parts of speech. For easy understanding, go through the detailed explanation step by step to master it. And then you see that when you come across questions on identifying adverbial phrases and clauses and stating their function, you realize that it's not as difficult as you think. Just follow those steps strictly, and you find out that the answers will be very easy for you to get correctly. Subscribe to my channel, like and share with family and friends. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.